Welcome back to Hardball. Some conservatives out there are fed up with President Obama for blaming George W. Bush for the country's troubles. Here's what columnist Charles Krauthammer wrote in today's Washington Post. Is there anything he hasn't blamed George W. Bush for? The economy, global warming, the credit crisis, Middle East stalemate, the deficit, anti-Americanism abroad, everything but the swine flu. It's as if Obama's presidency hasn't really started. He's still taking inventory of the Bush years. That's Krauthammer talking. So it's President Obama's fault that we're wallowing in an economic meltdown. And two wars? Joan Walsh is with Salon.com, and Leslie Sanchez is a Republican strategist. Leslie, first to you. Let's take a look at some numbers here. You know, there are some objective facts we can look at. The unemployment rate when George W. Bush became president was about 4%. He left office, it was about 8%. It's now up to almost 10%. The surplus he inherited was almost $250 billion. He left President Obama with a $1.2 trillion deficit, which has grown a bit, but not much. He inherited a debt of about $6 trillion. He left Obama an $11 trillion debt, almost doubling it, which is about where it is today. So in the main, most of the numbers are as Obama inherited them from this past president. How can you not blame Bush for leaving Obama with what Obama has?
I think, to be fair, a lot of people can fundamentally understand that that's what he inherited. And I think that's another reason that Barack Obama's personal popularity has remained high. They said he inherited this. Everybody understood the crash.
So Krauthammer's wrong with his sarcastic sneering at Barack Obama.
Well, there's two interesting points. The distinct difference is everybody said we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt. That's why we put him in November. A lot of people got disgusted, especially those independent voters who turned at the last minute. Let's see what this guy can do. Then I think the killing point was that 8% unemployment. We're going to put the money into the economy. We're not going to see anything move above 8% unemployment. And now figures come out probably next Friday closer to 10%, if not higher. I think there's a lot of concern that this is probably the wrong direction. And at some point,
the direction was set in January by the time he got in office.
Well, a lot of people.
The direction hasn't changed.
The direction has changed with respect to what the president's policies are, to what he's doing.
I'm not sure what you mean.
Well,
you're saying that he made a misguess as to how high unemployment would get, and therefore he's being wrapped by the right?
I think that there are a lot of people, political strategists agree that was a number that's hard to live with, that a lot of times they shouldn't have put that number out there.
Your thoughts, Joan?
I will give Leslie that, but, I mean, when you read that quote to me and when I read it in the paper this morning, Chris, I mean, I was just like, yeah, he is to blame for global warming, stalemate in the Middle East, all, you know, the total meltdown.
Krauthammer is a conservative and usually smarter. This was
smarter.
A partisan column.
It was
purely partisan
hack column. Did you ever see?
Maybe he has to do one of those every couple months. I don't know, but he did.
Well, everybody has.
The question to you as a Obama devotee, which I find
it's a little strong.
Pleasant. No, don't deny the truth. It seems to me that at some point he's going to have to be president and take all the heat for all the problems. When do you accept the fact that Barack Obama is responsible for the way things are? When will that be?
I think he gets it on the economy. He gets another year. He does, because the trajectory you described was really going bad fast, and it's going to get better slowly.
Will he get credit come next November from the voters for having inherited?
No, that's why I'm saying a year. He's got to.
No.
They will forget.
No, I think that egg beater started ticking right away the day he moved in January. The day he won in November, people.
That's one of my favorite phrases, Leslie. The egg timer. Well, I always think about things. Most people should live by an egg timer. But go ahead.
But no, to their point, a lot of it's funny. Republicans will tell you, oh, he had 9 months. He had about a year. Most Republican and Democratic pollsters will say it's about a year time frame. There's some interesting thing coming out of Republican polling, I will tell you, and that is that in August was the first time that it about leveled out. Who was going to get credit for the economy? It was leveling between Bush and Obama, and now it's starting to turn. I think September people are trying to say now Obama's starting to own more of this economic recovery or this economic.
Richard Nixon was blamed for the Vietnam War within seconds of taking office. He didn't get much of a breathing spell at all, Joan, from the liberal side of things. Is it fair to blame Barack Obama for the Afghan war from the day he took office, because he could end it if he wanted to? It's his war to end if he wants to.
That is one point I will give a little bit to Krauthammer on, because it is true that he came out in March and he did announce a strategy, and he's having to rethink the strategy. Now, it's fine to rethink it, and Dick Cheney is ridiculous to say he's dithering. He's not. It's not dithering to go to Dover and look at the coffins of men and women.
Dithering? Dick Cheney. He ought to leave. Stop dithering.
Stop dithering
leave.
on stage.
You lost. The election's over. Goodbye. You're still here. Why are you still here? Freddy Krueger? It's Halloween. Why are you still here?
That's my line. Go home and scare your grandchildren.
We thought the same thing with Jimmy Carter. I mean,
no, he didn't stay in town. He left. He went back to Plains.
No, but he still went in front of a microphone. I mean,
why doesn't he go back to Halliburton, where he came from?
There has never been a figure like Dick Cheney.
Halliburton would probably welcome him back.
I'm not even gonna, no, I'm not. I'm going to let you take that one. I'll let you take that one. That's a spooky
word, isn't it? Halliburton.
Halliburton on Halloween.
Okay, what do you think about this war situation? Is it Barack's war in Afghanistan now?
Absolutely. I think it's ownership. People are waiting for that decision. I think people fundamentally understand it's going to be he's going to try to say it's a compromise, but overall, people are waiting for leadership. They expect him to lead. And there's whiffs of kind of the missteps of the repetition you saw in the Clinton administration.
Okay, let's take a look at Defense Secretary Robert Gates, who everyone respects, who is also Bush's defense secretary, said President Obama was the first to put forth a real strategy on Afghanistan. This is Gates talking. Let's watch.
I think that that the strategy that the president put forward in late March is the first real strategy we have had for Afghanistan since the early 1980s.
Leslie?
I think he's probably right. I think there's a tremendous amount of optimism, but in turn, I think the criticism right now is that in kind of delaying and waiting for this response that a lot of people fundamentally believe is going to be just kind of a small adaptation of what General McChrystal wants. People feel that there's a lot of lives in jeopardy, and he's not acting swift enough.
What do you think will happen, Joan, if the president decides that he has to go with McChrystal, that it's his man in the field? He recommends 40,000 more troops, which will take us to 108,000 troops in the field. And the president says, I may disagree on a couple points, but we need to fight the Taliban and defeat them. We can't just go after terrorists. We have to go after the main threat to that government. What will your reaction be?
My reaction will be very disappointed, because I don't think 40,000 troops is enough. Frankly, I don't think we have enough troops to really do what General McChrystal is saying we can do, which is pacify that country, win them over, and counter the insurgency every day. It's just it's like a Rube Goldberg device, as you said before, for fighting the Taliban. We are making enemies every day we're in there of people who were not friendly to Al Qaeda or the Taliban.
You know, but the counter.
Okay, then we're getting to a point here. You say Barack Obama becomes president in effect at what point? When's he responsible for the economy?
He's responsible. He's responsible now. His policies are having an impact.
When did he become responsible?
Most people thought a year.
Okay, right now he's in. Well, January.
And it's advanced to about 9 months.
On the economy, I'm still going to give him till next October.
When's he responsible for war policy?
I think he's just responsible tonight.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much, Joan Walsh and Leslie Sanchez. Have a nice weekend, both of you. Up next.